What a joy it is for us to be able to bring this sewing show right to your home. My mama loved to add couture techniques to the clothing she made for me when I was in high school and college. My handmade clothes were truly gorgeous. I loved watching Mama while she was sewing. You are invited to spend time watching us sew today. Welcome to my sewing room. I am so pleased to have as my guest today my dear friend Louise Cutting. Louise is president of Cutting Corners, and she is a representative of Rowenta Iron Company. Louise, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be back.
Oh my goodness, it's beautiful shell over here. Very simple shell.
But it has a great dart in the side, and anybody over a B cup needs to know how to put a dart in.
Just makes them fit right.
They fit beautifully.
Show us.
Well, the pattern has the shell with the dart, but I'm going to show you a different dart that's in that than is in that pattern, and it's called a double-ended fisheye dart. But the way most patterns have you do is you cut that through the middle, and now you have a 12-inch hole in your garment. Well, I'm going to show you how to do a balanced fisheye dart. And the dart would be placed about 2 inches underneath the apex of the bust point. And you want to have the fullest part about 3 inches below. This is an extra piece of fabric. It's a bias piece of fabric. Now, it would be within your fashion fabric, but I did it in a stripe so that you can see it. Here's your double-ended fisheye dart. It folded in half, and the extra piece of fabric is just slid underneath. I have the dot here because that's where you're going to start to stitch. You're going to stitch from there to the point off onto your fabric. Turn it around, stitch from here down to the other end and off onto your fabric. You never start at the point because you can't get on and back off. So this is, the fabric is stitched to it. In our next step, we have our extra fabric stitched, and it is going to be folded so that you have, this fabric will be folded all in one direction. And when it gets pressed, you have your little raw edges out here, but with this fabric being in the bias, it doesn't matter. It's not going to ravel. When the dart is finally pressed, the dart goes one way and the balance part goes the other. So now you have equal amount of fabric on both sides of the dart, and you don't have a hole cut in the front of your fabric.
That's incredible, Louise.
Your next couture dart is the kind that would be in your waistband of a skirt coming down over the hip. Now, the one thing the pattern companies never have you do correctly is they have you stitch off at an angle. What you need to do is stitch straight down. That's your seam allowance. That would be where your waistband would go on. And then you would turn and go down to the point. So here is your dart folded in half. You would stitch straight down, straight to the point, and then your tiny little bias piece would be slipped right underneath, and you would stitch off onto the pad. So here we are here. Once it finally gets pressed, your little pad stays in there. It's an inch square piece of fabric cut on the bias, and it pads out that end. So if you're a bad dart point stitcher, this pads out and you don't have that little indent. This particular straight stitch here, if you had 8 darts in a skirt and you stitched that at that angle, you would have made the waistband 2 inches smaller than what it should have been.
Oh my goodness.
So that's why the skirt rises up and makes that trough around the waist. So this way, stitching straight down into it and down into the point. And again, you're stitching off onto the pad, so you're not back stitching on the end of the dart value. I have friends that find old tailoring books, and I'm sure you have a stash of them also. Well, some of them, the techniques have gotten a little old, but there was one that I thought was so cool, and it's what everybody needs to think about when they're pressing. This is the dart that is in that shell. If you are a smaller bust size, dart values get pressed down. This will be the first time you've ever heard this. If you're a bigger bust size, darts get pressed up.
Yes, that is the first time I've ever heard that.
Because that way it raises the bust line up and it doesn't add that extra fabric to make it look fuller and lower. So this way, if you are a C cup or above, you're ironing that dart value up. Now those little pads that I showed you that are in the skirt, they don't go into a horizontal bust dart.
Well, Louise, that is absolutely fascinating. I know I can remember my mother spending hours teaching me proper, beautiful dart. She said nothing made something homemade looking like a bad dart.
Yes, and you also want to press a dart.
Well, my mother said pressing was as important as sewing. So.
And you always want to press a dart over a hem because you are curved and the hip line is curved and the bust line is curved, and you always want to press over a hem. Now, hams are very interesting. They've always made them in two different fabrics. You always have the plaid wool and you have the drill cloth, which is a cotton duct. No one ever realized that you're supposed to press wool and silk on the wool side of a ham, and you're supposed to press cottons and linens and all your synthetics on the cotton side of a ham, because the release of the steam from the iron releases differently from the wool side than from the cotton side.
Wow, now that's the first time I've ever known that too. Oh, Louise, thank you so much.
You are welcome.
And now Louise has some beautiful things for our sewing inspiration section of the show. Louise, I just love your beautiful jackets. Talk to us about them.
Well, my favorite color, the lime green, which you have on, and linen. The tab running down the front and back are a small little width of fabric by probably about 36 inches long that I found in a Japanese store. And they are the scarves that men in Japan wear wrapped around their heads. And I just thought this would be so pretty, and I was lucky enough to find the lime green to match it.
Oh, it's wonderful, Jackie, with all the interest around the face, around the neckline.
This cascades
Fabulous.
down in folds, which looks so pretty, and I love the Japanese just have just a really nice sensibility for their designs. This one has a seam split down the side, and the little tabs are double thickness, as are the sleeves. They will roll up in that it's clean finished inside and out. My mother and your mother do exactly the same thing. You never know.
To make the inside look good.
Yes, that I think my mother's clothes couldn't blast them apart. These are
my most favorite pants in the whole world, the one seam pants.
The one seam pants. Now I did a little bit of extra
the 30-minute
detail.
pants.
Well, it takes a smidgen longer.
A smidgen longer than 30 minutes. Okay.
And I put a little bit of extra time in here.
The dart.
Yeah, we put it, with being our dart program, we put a dart about 6-8 inches up the hem. This would be where the grain line would be, which is like the non-existent side seam, and then just a little tab. So all it is a little hem interest. It has nothing else. I always call it just grins and giggles.
Grins. It makes me feel like I've been to New York or Paris to Fashion Week when I look at your clothes, Louise, and the beautiful thing is they're easy, even though they look so spectacular.
They're easy and
wonderful dart.
The wonderful dart. And this is a dimensional fabric. So this is when you want to keep away the dimensional fabric from in here. So you want to do the facings in lining fabric to keep, that way it keeps it nice and flat and crisp.
Oh, how fabulous this jacket is.
I found the 3 fabrics and coordinating colors.
Black.
And then this particular pattern just has a little inset pocket, and it's just all clean finished. Here's the bag of the pocket showing. And it just has a real pretty, every single thing in here short of the buttons being sewn on is all done on machine.
I like that.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, Louise, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you, Martha.
And now we have a So Easy trick for you. I am so pleased to have as my guest today Sheila McNeeley. Sheila is General Manager of Floriani Products, a division of R&K Distributing. Sheila, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Martha. I'd like to show you some tips and tricks on towels and bulky items today, and teaching you how to keep the loops and the bulkiness of the towel from showing in your design. And you'll look at this design, this monogram. It's very open, and it's very easy to get lost in the loops of the towel. And so we want to show you how to eliminate that today. And also we have here a solid design and then open work, and we want to show you how to work with that, as well as this solid design with a monogram.
Love the machine embroidery on towels, Sheila.
The one thing I'd like to encourage you to do is to pre-wash your towels before you stitch them. What you're going to do is you're going to eliminate the sizing that's in there that deflects the needles. So then we're going to use a sticky type stabilizer, and we can use, there's two different kinds. We can use a sticky wash away. We can also use a sticky tear away, depending on the towel. If I'm using an open work design, I'm going to use a water soluble sticky. If I'm going to use a solid design, then I'm going to use a tear away sticky. So first thing I'm going to do is hoop my stabilizer paper side up. And then from there, take a needle, and you want to score across the paper so that you can peel this back. And then we can place our towel in place. And then once we have our towel in place, we want to use something like a water-soluble topping on top. And we can tape that in place by just using masking tape to be able to hold it in place as we stitch. We can also use a heat away product. Now I have one here that in this one I did not use any topping, and see how the loopies are coming through this towel?
Oh, I do. Not pretty.
And this one we used a heat away and stitched it, and then took the iron and touched it with the iron, and all of the topping goes away. So it gives you a very beautiful stitch out if you use a topping each time you're stitching.
Well, Sheila, this illustration truly shows what it looks like when you don't use one, and when you do, that's fascinating. Sheila, thank you so very much. And now I have a wonderful little project called Sewing Accessories for you. This sewing accessory bag is absolutely so easy to make and really a handy bag. Let me just turn this on the inside so you can see. This one has a beautiful linen on the outside lined in silk dupioni. Now, one of the reasons I love this so much, it's weighted. It has a batting in it, and it's nice and weighted. It isn't going to dump over. You can put all kinds of sewing notions in there. Linen and silk dupioni. The next one is silk dupioni and silk dupioni. You see it has the beautiful peach silk dupioni and then this wonderful printed silk dupioni. And again, it's just not going to fall over at all. It is weighted. It's very, very strong and sturdy. And oh, this is kind of interesting. Once you get the tabs, you put a button down and just machine stitch the buttonhole on. Let's see how easy it is to make this. As you know, we love easy. Now this is just a small miniature version. I have, first of all, the batting is on the first layer, and the lining, which is that beautiful peach silk dupioni, is on the second layer, and then my silk dupioni, the ecru silk dupioni, is on the right hand side, on the top. All right, I'm going to stitch all the way around, and of course leave an opening so I can turn it right side out. Then I have a template, which has a sort of a cross in the middle, not sort of a cross, and then the corners are marked off. And you'll notice there's a little line in between the halfway point. Halfway, halfway, and halfway, and then the lines, that's the fold lines. So I'm going to trace my pattern onto the lining side of this wonderful sewing accessory, and this is so cool the way it goes together. Okay, it's all folded and turned and pressed. Now you remember we had the line in the middle, the line where the corner crosses, and the line where the corner crosses. All right, let's take the line in the middle, the marking point A, and bring it over here to point B. With the lining fabric, which is the pink, fold it to the inside. Okay, now let me grab it. I'm matching up that center point with the point on the side and watch what happens. Now see, I have that little sort of that little dart folded up. Then I'm going to press it down. Uh-oh, I've got to move over just a little bit. Hang on. But then I'm going to press it down on that other line and sew it. Okay, let me just pin that and we'll pretend like we have sewn it. Just that little tab that comes over on the corner. Let's do that again. There is this line, here's that halfway mark again that's already folded over. All right, now watch. I'm going to pick it up with the lining. Once again, that beautiful peach is the lining. I'm going to point it, make a little dart, sort of, a little folded dart, and I'm going to fold it over once again near the tabs, and I'm going to sew it. But right now, I'm just going to pin it. Are you with me on that? And I'll continue to go around. Now, I've just sewn half of it. All right, you see the part that was folded over, the part that was folded over, stitch down and come across and stitch the whole thing down. Now, you know what I have to do? This is the lining, so I'm going to turn it right side out. Again, I need to do all 4 of my corners. I'm going to turn it right side out. It makes that wonderful little pocket, and I will press the tabs down. Press the tabs down, and the little finish, I'm going to bring this finished one back over here and show you. The little finish is a beautiful little pearl button, machine stitched, and it is zigzag, 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 and it holds it in there very, very tightly. And then, of course, it's always fun to put a little ribbon around it, and we could pull it closed if we wanted to, if you want to close it, or probably just leaving it open, and it's all ready to put your most favorite sewing notions there. And it's a weighted little bag, and it really just makes your sewing area look so pretty. This would also be beautiful to use in your bathroom, to put various and sundry things in, you know, cosmetics or whatever. It's just so pretty. And now I have some hand embroidery to share with you. I am so pleased to have as my guest Beverley Sheldrick. My friend Beverley is from New Zealand, and she is a world-renowned embroiderer. She teaches at the Martha Pullen School of Art Fashion in Huntsville, and she's the teacher on 2 brand new silk ribbon embroidery DVDs. Beverley, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Martha. It's wonderful to be here with you. Now, Martha, today I'd like to show our viewers this beautiful little dogwood. It's such a pretty stitch, and you will see that it's here on the gown. You'll see I've used it here. It's just a simple little stitch, but very pretty. So let's look at just how we're going to do it. You can see we have a stem stitch in here. We have these 4 little straight stitches here. We then have some wee ends to it like that, and finally with a little French knot in the middle there, and then we've got a nice juicy French knot sitting here. Now it's very simple, but it does give a lovely effect when you want something light and dainty. So here we are, we've got our stem stitch here, and I'll just put in a couple of stitches here for you, just like this. Very, very simple. So the stem goes in first. That helps to give you shape to it. Now, you can see here that I've already put in the first 3 stitches, but what I want to show you is, and we do need straight stitches here, Martha, so you don't get any twists in it. I want you to see how I've taken my fingernail over it, then I'm going to put my needle in where I want it to go, and then I can just gently pull it through like this, like that, and then just ease it forward, and that will make sure that I have that nice flat stitch there with no twists in it. Now you can see here I've chosen a nice bright colour, and I've put in at the end of each one, I've given it all a little point like this. So I've come up approximately 1/16 of an inch inside the petal, and then I'm coming on and going down like that. So it just gives you this lovely little point to each petal. And then of course we're going to put in a French knot in the middle. Now French knots are easy. I know people often think they're difficult, but they're not really. So here I am, I've come through from the back. I'm going to take this over there like that, put my finger on it like that, and then putting it in like that, just like that. When I've got the knot sitting there, then I can take my needle through, and there I have it. Now, they do look particularly nice done in groups. I've only done one here to make it easy for you to all see, but they do look good in sort of little groups like that. Now, I do want to go over this French knot with you once more, because for a stitch which is really very simple, it's surprising how many girls have problems with it. So you can see I've come up there, I'm just taking this back, I'm putting my needle there, I'm taking the ribbon over the needle and bringing it back towards myself. I'm going to put my finger on it, and then you will find it's very easy for me to put it into the fabric. Now, one of the secrets is always leave a space. Don't try to come up. Sometimes people will come up, and then when they go down into the same hole. Well, that's all right if you've got a bead or something like that to hold it, but we haven't got a bead here. So when I put that needle back into the fabric, then you will see that there's 3 or 4 strands of fabric in between. Now I'm going to pull this thread so that it's sitting there. My knot is now sitting on the ground there like that, and only at that point do I now take my needle through, and there I have a lovely little French knot. Now, if you've ever had problems with a French knot that looks like a lollipop, it's, you know, a knot on the end of the stalk, then it's because the knot has not been sitting on the ground before you took the needle through. And I've often seen girls doing it. We don't want pistol stitch, we want a French knot. And of course, depending on how large you want your French knot will depend on whether you pull it really tightly like this. You can see how that's now sitting very tightly on the ground, or if I'd wanted something which had been a little bit looser and sitting smiling at me. Isn't that easy?
Beverly, it is easy when you teach it, and it's beautiful, and I tell you, it's just unbelievably wonderful to see how simple French ribbon embroidery is.
It is.
French ribbon, silk ribbon embroidery, French knot,
that's
silk
okay.
ribbon.
We just put them both together.
French ribbon embroidery may be something we have to invent now.
Why not?
Beverly, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And now I have a beautiful piece to share with you from my vintage collection. Not many months ago, I was sitting in my office and I received a phone call from a lovely lady, and she said, "Martha, I have some beautiful family pieces that nobody will ever want. They will be thrown away. If, you know, when time comes for me to get rid of my things, I want to send them to you. Would you like to have them?" And I said, "Oh, I would love to have them." This beautiful dress was one of some precious things that came in the mail. So I'm going to share it with you because I told her I would. This little dress is probably, by the way, it's totally made by hand, except for the fact that the embroidery is Swiss. The construction's by hand. The wonderful scoop neck, which means it was probably 1830 to 1880. These sweet little sleeves that were open, and of course it has a draw thread. Now the skirt is absolutely beautiful. It's totally worked from the neckline, as you can see the princess panel, from the neckline all the way down to the bottom. There is a little piece at the waistline area with a feather stitch, and you come all the way down with the tucks. There are a series of 5 tucks. All of these tucks have been stitched in by hand. And another one of those little center pieces, some little ruffles at the bottom. And as you can see, it's just perfectly exquisite. And I do so thank this sweet lady that sent it to me. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you've had fun, and I would like to invite you to come back next time.